Hello, Kem here. Welcome back to another video. I've decided to make the switch back to solo Self-Found, which is where I would usually play, and figured with the changes that they've made to spell totems this patch, I'd give an old classic a revisit, the Divine Eye Hierophant. Firstly, I'll go over some pros and cons of the build. So, it's SSF viable, you can do pinnacles and T16s and everything on just kind of basic rare gear, which is what you want. Safe playstyle, as it's a totem build, you can place totems, run around, so that makes it quite good for also learning boss mechanics. If you're a newer player maybe and you just wanna learn the boss fights, it's pretty good for that as well. Visually satisfying. I mean, come on, look at the laser beams, and it's off meta. So I've put it being off meta as a pro, but now I'm going to move on to the cons, and I'd say one of the cons is because it is off meta, there are stronger spell totem choices out there. So Stormburst, which you've probably seen, is pretty popular this patch. It can feel clunky without cast speed. So, before you get cast speed on your rings, amulet, and weapon, the beam can take a little bit longer to go off. And you need to remember not to spam the totems as well, because if you keep spamming it, then it's not going to be able to get the beam off in time. And I'd say another con is it's probably unlikely to be able to scale to Ubers, but I don't know. With enough investment, you probably could get there still. So when it comes to the offensive and defensive layers, the main scaler of both of these is just stacking mana, really. So I have around a 7k life pool, as I've got 4k max life and close to 3k mana. So 40% of damage taken goes to the mana pool because of Mind Over Matter, and because we're using an Eternal Blessing setup with one aura, we can have our whole mana pool unreserved. So it basically works as a second life pool. Into late game, I think eventually I'm going to scale into evasion and ES gear. I haven't done this at the minute in SSF because gearing's a little bit hard to get there. So for now, I'm just going like armor evasion and armor ES on the 6th link, mainly for making the colours easier to hit. So in terms of the Ascendancy that we go for, it's a bit of a no-brainer because it's a totem build. We're going with the Hierophant, and in terms of Ascendancy order, I pick up Pursuit of Faith as the first lab because this just allows us to get totems online in a smoother way. We get +1 to max, increased placement speed, and also duration, which is really nice. Because Divine Eye is quite dependent on cast speed for it to feel smooth, I actually go with Arcane Blessing as the second lab, and then I go with Conviction of Power for the third lab. It's because of the +4 minimum power charges, it allows us to go crit into endgame, because it's pretty hard to scale DPS I found without going into crit. So going into this as the third lab gives us that survivability from the endurance charges, but also the damage from power charges. And then for fourth lab, I go for Ritual of Awakening, which with the decoy totems, we have 5 totems up in total. So gives us some nice mana and life regen, but also 25% more damage. And this will scale up to 30% more damage once we craft a +1 shield at endgame as well. There are some other options though. You can actually go this route instead for your fourth lab. Go for Divine Guidance, which gives us a bigger life pool because of the mana. Gives us 50% of damage taken from mana before life because we get 10 from here and then 40 from here. And yeah, just gives us more damage as well with the combination of Arcane Cloak. Okay, so moving on to the passive tree now. So if you check the PoB link in the description, you'll see my full progression from Act 1 all the way to Pinnacles, and this shows the actual gear I used as well. So if you select one of the loadouts, it will also have the skills and items at that point as well. So key areas on the tree then, because mana is important for scaling our DPS and our survivability, obviously path down to this section of the tree, pick up all these little mana nodes here. There are some extra bits which I haven't grabbed because I didn't want to increase the mana cost. But then, you know, we've got this bit up here as well. And then this is quite important. So this Lightning Mastery, increases and reductions to max mana, also apply to shock effect. So again, this combined with this Mastery gives us quite often 50% shock on bosses, which is the max, I think. And then, you know, I pick up cast speed wherever I can, just because, again, it makes it feel much smoother. One thing that's quite important, because in my earlier trees, I spec'd this way for the additional cast speed, but then once I got to maps, you know, my totems were dying quite often, so you want to make sure you switch to these nodes here to path to this big notable. So, you know, a bit of resistance and life goes a long way on totems. Okay, moving on to the skill setup then. So we've got Divine Ire, Spell Totem, Increased Critical Strikes, Increased Crit Damage, Lightning Pen, and Faster Casting. So there are higher DPS options than Faster Casting, but to me, that 47% increased cast speed, well, 49 at level 20, just makes the build feel that much smoother, and I personally think for mapping it's mandatory. There is an argument to be made for bosses. You could probably swap it out for Conk Effect. But again, if it's a really mobile boss that moves around a lot, it is quite nice just to make sure that all the beams get off. So for single target, I do swap out Divine Ire for Divine Ire of Disintegration. So the main difference between the two is Divine Ire has a channeling portion which kind of has beams that come out around the totem and then the release. Whereas Divine Ire of Disintegration, all of the damage is just from the beam itself. So you see, we're nearly at 1.1 mil per beam. And if we go back to Divine Ire, just a normal one, we're at 746k. So again, just a bit of a single target boost there. Moving on to our Arcane Cloak setup. So we've got it with automation, more duration, and efficacy. So the reason we put this in is because of the line increased skill effect duration, so it just makes it last that bit longer. We've got Wrath with Eternal Blessing. Now, if you're finding survivability to be an issue and your DPS is okay, you can drop Wrath for Grace or Determination, but honestly, for mapping, I found it okay for now. This setup is optional. I had a few skill slots free, so I decided to go with this. So what you do is you throw the Stormblast mines down, and you've got the line there where you get more damage basically for each mine near an enemy. So you don't actually trigger these. So I tend to only really use this at the start of boss fights just to preload a bit of damage. There are some other options. I know DS Lily, for example, has gone for a like Ray Spectre setup. I personally don't like managing Spectres, so I've kind of opted against that. But you know, that probably could be better than this setup, honestly, because it'll be consistent. Now I've got Frostblink as a movement skill. Again, because we scale a lot of cast speed, you could probably go for Frostblink of Wintry Blast here as an alternative to Shield Charge, because Shield Charge isn't the quickest, because we are a caster build. So that is an option to get a bit more zoominess to the build, if that's even a word. Assassin's Mark as the curse, again just gives us some crit chance and multi. Lightning Golem, chuck that in, doesn't really stay alive that much, but you know, a little bit more cast speed and mana regen now and again. And then we've got Decoy Totem with multiple totems. This is quite nice, because obviously it gives us 10% more damage from the Ascendancy, and it just takes some heat off our character a little bit as well. Okay, so in terms of my gear then, I will just add a little disclaimer. This gear is very average because it's the actual SSF gear that I've used on my playthrough. so it's not aspirational by any means. And I'll touch on some upgrade goals that I've got a little bit later in the video. But yeah, I'll go over what I've got for now. So weapon, the main things from this is the +1 to skills, the spell critical strike chance, and the cast speed. Ideally, I'd want higher cast speed on a profane wand base, which also has cast speed as the implicit, and I'd probably want to drop one of those bad prefixes for something like % spell damage, so that would be ideal. For now, I've just got this armor evasion shield, just has a max life, res, crafted mana, and a bit of chance to block. Eventually I'll be crafting a titanium spirit shield with +1 totems on it. And then the rest of the gear is just kind of average, but I'll go through it quickly. Armor evasion here, again just a bit more survivability, craft on mana. I've gone for an armor ES 6 link, so I actually got this from the breach tree, so I spec'd into breach quite early just to try and get a 6 link, which turned out pretty well actually. So got that for now. Not bad, but you know, can definitely be improved on. Gloves. So I think this is the only thing I've actually used Eldritch implicits on, or Eldritch currency, sorry, on for now. I hit the lightning exposure, and I was trying to get unnerve on the other slot as well, but haven't hit that yet. Boots, again, just reses, life, movement speed. Amulet, pretty solid to be honest. Good life, good crit strike chance, +1, and cast speed. And I've actually anointed Prodigal Perfection, so this gives quite a bit of mana and then spell damage per max mana. It was just a cheap anoint. I think there probably are better options, but if you want something just cheap, because what is it? It's clear Azure, and because I'm not expecting to blight, that's all I could really manage for now. The 2 stone ring, so this is actually quite good. I've gone into Jun early, so you know, +1 to min endurance charges is quite a common unveil on rings, and because of this, so this +1 to max, and with this Ascendancy, I'm actually at 5 endurance charges all the time. And I'm also at 5 power charges all the time because of this one up here and this as well. So yeah, quite comfy there. The other ring, again, cast speed. So ideally what I'd want is cast speed here and cast speed here as well, but you know, like higher tier on the amulet, but that's fine for now. Heavy belt, not great, but yeah. Corrupted blood flask, life flask, and we've got corrupted blood mana flask as well, just in case we're out of charges. And then just a pretty standard utility setup. So granite with increased armor, jade with increased evasion, and a quicksilver with reduced effective curses. But obviously you can go with something like movement speed here as well. In terms of jewels, just pretty average. Cast speed, res, crit strike chance, and cast speed, lightning damage. Okay, so I'll quickly go over the leveling of the build. So in the PoB, I've got every act, almost. I think I skipped Act 9, but yeah, what I'll do is I'll go over the first few acts and then just skip a little bit more later on. So with Act 1, obviously pick these nodes up first, so you path out of here. You want to go towards Ancestral Bond, so Act 1 we start going that direction. Act 2 we pick it up. We also pick this node and Elemental Overload. So by this point on Holy Flame Totem we're doing some pretty good damage. So if we look here, I think this is my 3 link setup for now. And then Act 3 Divine Ire swap. So we come up here, pick up these cast speed nodes. I think if you try to switch to Divine Ire before picking these up, it's just going to feel a little bit too clunky. So obviously, we go into this Ascendancy. So I'm still on Holy Flame Totem at this point. But then once I get this, I make the switch to Divine Ire. And this is the 4 link setup I go for. And then I'm just going to jump to Act 5 now. So we come down here, pick up some more cast speed, go up towards this node here. pick up this good lightning damage and pen, and then come down here. This mastery is really strong for damage. And then Act 8 and Act 10, I think we just start going down here. So this is the pre-crit swap. So if you haven't gone into crit yet, this is the sort of tree you'll be looking at going into maps. But if you enter into maps and you want to be into crit, this is the tree you go with. And then we pick this up as the third lab. Okay, so in terms of Atlas strategy, I like to start off with Jun in SSF. I think it's quite a good source of uniques if you're running research safe houses. And also I like doing transportation for the gamble as well. Running it that fled in transportation this league, you can get Foulborn uniques from the trap stash, which I find quite nice. So in terms of the Atlas tree pathing, I just prioritize the shaping nodes early. So I come up here, grab this, path over here, grab this, then come up the middle here, fill all this out, and then I start filling out all the Jun nodes first. I've kind of added Strongbox in as well because I don't know, I find it's a nice little bonus with the Mirage this league, and I just start specking into this once I've got freeze immunity on the Brine King Pantheon, and then once I've got that, I just fill out the rest of the Strongbox nodes, pick up all these Quant Wheel nodes here, and then by this point you should be getting towards, you know, like T16s and stuff. So then I come down to here. This is where I'm working to now. I haven't actually gone into destructive play yet, but that's what I'm going to be pushing now. I've got at least my first Void Stone. So yeah, that's the strat for now. I actually did go into Breach early just to get the 6 link, and then I've come out of it because what I'm going to do on one of my next trees is I'm going to go for Breach and Beyond, and that should be quite a nice farm. Okay, so what are my plans for the build going forward then? So I want to craft a better weapon. I've been picking up Profane 1 bases and I'm alt spamming them, just trying to get 2 or 3 good mods for recombinating, and then I'll probably just multi-mod to finish it. That should be good enough. I want to make a +1 totem shield. That's probably the most important thing actually for DPS increase. So I'll be grabbing titanium spirit shields again from the ground, alt spamming them, similar sort of process to the profane one. We just need to leave a prefix open for the Shaper Slam. Doing destructive play, hopefully I should be able to get a Shaper's Exalt, and that'll be, it's actually a guaranteed roll if you hit that on a open prefix. But you obviously need to make sure all the suffixes are full as well. Eldritch Implicits for all of my rares, because right now I've only got them on my gloves, so that's going to give us some more survivability through like physical damage taken as Ellie, and I know you can get like cast speed on the helmet as well, and you know, some things like that, so that'll be nice. I need to do a little bit of Delirium because the Totem damage cluster jewel, the medium one, is really important because with Sleepless Sentries you can get permanent onslaught, which, you know, again makes the build just feel that much nicer. I'll be honest, Divine Ire, I think I can push it, you know, pretty far with some upgrades, but ultimately I know Stormburst is the stronger build, so I might transition into Stormburst as well. Thanks for watching the video. If you like the content and you want to keep updated on my SSF journey, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that loads. And until next time, see you later.